Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
This stupid thing won't work.
There was a time when money did not require confidence. It did not depend on trust in institutions. It did not rely on forecasts, projections, or official reassurance. It did not ask citizens to believe that things would work out. Money operated under a rule. A US dollar was not simply paper issued by authority. It was a claim, limited and conditional, but explicit. A promise that could be tested. If confidence weakened, the rule still applied. If politics shifted, the rule remained in place. But in the early 1970s, that rule disappeared. Not through collapse, not through public debate, not through a moment most Americans felt immediately. It was replaced quietly. What followed was not the end of money, nor the loss of structure. It was the beginning of a different kind of structure, a system. This documentary is not about whether that change was right or wrong. It is about what changed and how the dollar stopped being a promise and became a managed system. For most of modern American history, money functioned as a claim on something outside itself. Paper currency was not the asset, it was a representation. The value of the dollar was anchored to a rule that imposed discipline on issuance. Expansion was possible, but not unlimited. Growth existed, but within boundaries. This design forced trade-offs. If spending increased, something else had to adjust. If commitments expanded, constraints became visible. Gold convertibility did not guarantee stability, but it enforced limits, and limits shaped behavior. Economic expansion could not ignore physical reality. Policy decisions narrowed future options. The system was imperfect, but it was bounded. And bounded systems behave differently. In a smaller, slower economy, constraint was stabilizing. Production cycles were longer. Financial markets were less complex. Global integration was limited. A promise-based monetary system aligned with that environment. The dollar's role was not to maximize growth, it was to preserve reliability. Trust was embedded in the rule itself. Citizens did not need to interpret policy statements or assess credibility. The system either held or it failed visibly. That clarity mattered. But clarity comes at a cost. By the mid-20th century, the United States was no longer operating within a contained economy. It was managing global trade, international obligations, and domestic expansion at unprecedented scale. Economistic activity accelerated. Financial interdependence deepened, but the monetary framework did not evolve at the same pace. Every dollar issued remained tied to a finite anchor. Every global commitment tightened the constraint. What once served as discipline became rigidity. This was not a failure of responsibility. It was a mismatch between system design and system scale. Promises work best when change is slow and outcomes are predictable. They struggle as complexity increases. A promise demands fulfillment under fixed terms. A growing economy demands adaptation. By the late 1960s, maintaining the promise required increasingly costly intervention. The question shifted from how to preserve the rule to whether the rule itself had become the constraint. At this point, many people ask the same question. Why not repair the promise instead of replacing it? Because promises do not scale. Systems do. When the dollar severed its convertibility, it did not become arbitrary, it became operational. Money stopped being a claim on an external asset and became an instrument within a managed structure. The logic of the system changed. Instead of asking what backed the dollar, the system began asking how the dollar behaved. Interest rates replaced redemption. Liquidity replaced reserves. Adjustment replaced guarantee. This was not abandonment, it was redesign. In a system-based framework, money functions less like an object and more like infrastructure. It is not meant to be redeemed, it is meant to operate. Its reliability depends on process, not promise. Its value is maintained statistically, not absolutely. Trust shifts from material backing to institutional operation. Central banking becomes system management. Policy becomes calibration. The goal is continuity over time, not permanence. This design allows the economy to absorb shocks that would overwhelm a rigid system. But flexibility introduces uncertainty. At this point, it is important to pause and clarify something. A system is not a moral actor. It does not intend outcomes. It does not choose winners and losers. It does not operate with awareness or preference. It responds to inputs. When people describe modern money as designed, that design is often misunderstood as intention. In reality, it is constraint management. Rules are adjusted to stabilize behavior, not to direct it. Outcomes emerge not because they are chosen, but because they are permitted by structure. This distinction matters, because without it, analysis turns into accusation, and accusation replaces understanding. The modern dollar system does not promise fairness, it promises continuity. It does not eliminate risk, it redistributes it over time. This does not make the system benevolent. It does not make it hostile. It makes it functional. Large-scale systems survive by absorbing pressure, not by preventing it. They trade certainty for endurance. And once a society crosses a certain level of economic complexity, this trade becomes unavoidable. The system-based dollar offered clear advantages. It allowed faster response to disruption. It supported fiscal expansion. It aligned with a growing, interconnected global economy. Most importantly, it removed a hard ceiling on monetary capacity. Limits did not disappear, they changed form. Constraints became dynamic rather than fixed. A system-based currency does not promise protection, it promises functionality. The certainty once provided by convertibility is replaced by managed outcomes. Purchasing power is not guaranteed. Stability is not absolute. Instead, the system works to prevent extremes. Volatility is spread over time. Costs are absorbed gradually, not by intention, but by structure. Despite criticism, the system persists because it functions at scale. It supports global trade. It enables coordinated response. It accommodates complexity that promise-based systems cannot. Once economies reach a certain size, fixed promises become liabilities. Systems replace promises not because they are ideal, but because they remain viable. The dollar did not lose meaning when it stopped being convertible. It changed its role. From a promise you could test to a system you must understand. Systems do not protect by default. They operate according to design. Understanding that design is not ideological. It is structural.